Thanks for tuning in today. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about how to set up a business in Sweden. It's not so much a how-to, but rather my personal experience and the steps I went through. And then I just want to also highlight a few things you might have to be aware of. Don't forget, I'm quite new to this, so it's not super expert knowledge here, but I definitely think it helps some people to think about what it is like to set up a business and if they want to do it themselves. And because my audience is really awesome, make sure to also check the comments in this video, because there are some people who know their stuff as well and who can give you tips about setting up a business in Sweden as well. I found that most people actually have really good advice, so that's why I'm referring to my comment section. So before I go into the details of setting up a business here in Sweden, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Julie and I'm originally from Germany. But in the last 10 years, I actually lived in the UK, in London more precisely. And then about 6 months ago, I moved to Sweden, just outside Stockholm. And on this YouTube channel, I like to talk about my honest opinions and my personal experience about arriving and living here in Sweden. It's highly personal, but I'm sure it can help some people who want to either move to Sweden or who just arrived in Sweden. And I think it's also interesting to see what it looks like when a foreigner lives in Sweden for Swedish people. So let's get started with setting up a company here in Sweden. I have a few notes here, so if I move my head a little bit, it's because my notes are over there. It's just because there are a few words I need to look up, and then also I kind of created a little timeline to let you know what my experience was like and how long it actually took for me. So it all started that I moved here actually on the 1st of June. And then in a few months, I decided to actually set up a company. So beginning of August, I got in touch with an accountant. Yes, and that basically was my first kind of step. I have to say, I would have felt overwhelmed by doing it myself because everything is really in Swedish and it takes a long time to translate. You definitely can do it, I think. You can probably go through all the documents and translate them, or you even speak a little bit of Swedish already, then obviously this is a plus, it's an advantage for you. But I'm not there yet and I couldn't have imagined doing it without an accountant. So that was the first step I actually did, and it was a recommendation. And the first step he actually asked me is, what kind of company do I want to have? Is it more like a limited company? I'm referring here to the UK. Or did I want to do more like a sole trader? So in Swedish, a limited company is called aktiebolag. And then a private company or sole trader is called enskild firma. And just to give you a very, very brief overview of what the difference is. So the limited company, the aktiebolag, you basically would be employed by your own company and you would pay yourself a salary. And it's a very limited accountability. You know, if anything happens like bankruptcy or something like that, you are not personally liable for it, but your company is. But yeah, as a sole trader, enskild firma, you have no salary in the traditional sense, but the total earnings of the enskild firma act as a salary. So legally, you would not really be employed by that company. And another thing you maybe should know is that you have to put in 25,000 krona into the limited company first, kind of to have a starting capital. And for the enskild firma, for the sole trader part, you don't really need any starting capital. It's not that you have to pay that as a fee, you put that on your business account, but it's just that this is a requirement to actually set up your company in Sweden. And then just because I have an accountant, just to give you a bit of an overview of what the price ranges are there, you do pay a little bit less accountancy fee for a sole trader and a little bit more for a limited company, but it also depends how active you are, how many invoices you have, and other parts of it. Basically, the time of the accountant, the more stuff you have, the more time he has to spend and the more he actually charges. But yeah, for an Ensklit-firma, it's about 10,000 krona a year maximum, so it could be actually less. And for the Aktiebolag, it's between 10 and 20,000 per year. I think my company is so small and the activities I have, it probably also will be more around the 10,000 part per year, because I'm not really a big business, you know. You have literally big ABs and they have lots to do, and I'm still just a single person having a company. So yeah, one thing I also have to say, I did receive my personnummer, so I'm not very familiar if it's possible to do it without it. If it is possible, it's definitely so much harder because I really needed to kind of verify myself, and it's harder without the personnummer. I will say a little bit more later as well. But yeah, how it works, basically, I have decided I want to start an Aktiebolag. Then I basically have to set it up on Werksamt. They charge for this 1,500 krona, and then you will need to open a bank account. As I mentioned before, you basically need to put those 25,000 krona into that bank account. And all this actually happened digitally, so you don't actually have to go anywhere. It's basically just submitting documentations and paying fees online. But then again, to start a business bank account, it is easier to also have your personnummer. Although I said in the previous video, it's possible to set up a private bank account without your personnummer. It is a bit more difficult, and you also have to find the right people. So with a business, it could be even trickier. So just to make it easier for you, it's better if you have a personnummer. So yeah, my first step was then to register at Werksamt. So we are now in mid-August, so it took about 2 weeks to kind of initiate the first steps. I had to find a name, so I came up with a name. Again, I had to provide my personal number. And one very important step here is you do need another person to actually start your company. And I'm talking about Aktiebolag, not for sole trader. You need to appoint a deputy board member. It can be really anyone. In my case, I just chose my partner, obviously, because that's the easiest. It could be a friend, obviously, it could be another family member. It doesn't really matter, but you do need a second person. So if you come here to Sweden and you want to start a company, then bear that in mind. You need another person in your company. Then I had to provide a company description. I had to set up a corporate bank account to transfer the 25,000 krona on there. And when you have set up your business bank account and you have transferred the money, then basically your bankman has to confirm the transaction, and he's basically part of the process and kind of needs to provide a certificate that everything is done. So again, it's probably good to have a good bankman as well. I feel this is not always guaranteed. I think I was quite lucky that there was someone who, you know, put actually quite a lot of effort into starting my private bank account, and that even happened without a personnummer. Within the process, I got my personnummer, so then it was easier. And he also helped me then to set up a business bank account. So you do have to find the right bank for you, and it's always good if they are really helpful, because especially if you're new to Sweden, there are a lot of questions and sometimes they have to be patient with your questions. My accountant did mention that you might have to provide like a business plan to the bank. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. I don't even know if you actually need that, because you're not really asking for money. It's not like a loan you're getting or anything. It's more that you're asking to transfer your money to that bank account. So I'm not sure if you really need it, but he did mention it. So just bear that in mind, that you might have to provide a business plan. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, it has to be a Swedish bank. I wanted to try if I can maybe have a Wise account or something like that, because it's more international. But because you have to transfer those 25,000 krona, it has to be a Swedish bank. And then what you have to kind of give to the bank as well as a you know, proof that you are going to set up or you are in the process of setting up a company. So you have to provide a STIFTELSEURKUND, is kind of like a memorandum of association. So you register your company. Then you also need a BOLAGSORDNING, which is kind of articles of association, so the partnership agreement. And then you also need, oh my god, an Anmälan, nyregistrering, bolagsverket. Oh my god, this is so hard, but I will put it here somewhere so you can read it, because you will probably not understand what I was saying. That's basically a registration for the new registration by the Swedish Companies Registration Office. And then you proceed with the application and send it to bolagsverket. So I don't know if you're still following me. There are definitely quite a few steps you have to take. And for me, I kind of like just followed what I was told, you know, by the accountant mainly. And then, you know, if the bankman had to be involved, I did that as well. And they did their part or online as well. So again, it's all online. You don't have to meet up anywhere or go anywhere and sign documents and stuff like that, which I feel that is quite a convenient process. And now we're actually on the timeline end of September, and it took quite a long time. And the tricky part was really to open the bank account and to transfer those 25,000 krona, just because, I don't know, there was a lot going on within the bank and the communication was not always so straightforward. One person replied and 2-3 days later they got a reply. So that's why actually weeks passed by, but it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you never know. It depends like what the processes are in the bank, etc, etc. But yeah, as soon as finally my business bank account was set up, I could transfer the money, and then the bankman could basically upload the certificate on Werksamt. He did that, and then I basically had to log in to bolagsverket and sign the application with my bank ID. So this is another thing. The bank ID helped a lot to have as well for signing documents. So I was asking a question in another video, do you really need the bank ID? And you don't need it, but it makes life so much easier if I didn't have it. And it also took me actually a little while to technically figure out how to do that, and it delayed a few things, but that was my own fault. But anyways, I have the bank ID and it's very, very convenient to really sign documents with it. And without it, I probably have to go somewhere and make an appointment. It probably would really, really drag the whole timeline of setting up a business here in Sweden. But yeah, I had to pay another kind of fee for bolagsverket, 250 krona. So here now you have to just be aware that you have to pay about 200 krona for signing things or for setting up things. But yeah, after a few weeks, my business was finally set up. It was basically mid-October. So I would say it took about 2.5 months to actually finalize the last steps. But yeah, one thing I also discovered is that it actually doesn't really say that you are the beneficial owner. Although you have set it up and you are the board member and everything, it doesn't really say it's your business. So I had to do another application, and basically my accountant said, Google werklig huvudman bolagsverket, basically being the real principal of the Swedish Companies Registration Office. Yeah, basically like the owner of your company. And then again, I had to register that extra at bolagsverket and pay another 250 krona. So that is something, you know, back to bureaucracy, something I don't understand, why you extra have to register as the owner of your own business. But yeah, that's what happened. I actually needed that because I did open a Wise bank account, just because I have international payments. I wanted to have like an account where I can have multiple currencies and better currency converters. So yeah, it is a little bit different to when I set up a company in the UK. It took me, I think, a few days in the UK, and there were not so many fees involved. It was a bit more straightforward, so I think that's easier. But you know, I'm just telling you what it is like, and because I have the experience of setting up a business in the UK and now also in Sweden, it is definitely easier in the UK. But then there's also the Swedish language, which is for me, a personal barrier. And that's why I also decided to have an accountant. But I think as a limited company, you need an accountant anyway. That was also something you needed in the UK. And then a few more steps you actually have to take after you registered your company officially, which is like tax register the company, and that means FSCAT, VAT, and employer registration. For me, it costs another 1,000 krona to pay the accountant. Again, every time I ask him to spend some time on things, he will charge me for it. So I will just give you a few examples of what I have been charged and how much it was. Maybe then you can compare it with accountants you are reaching out to get to know what you need to pay in the future. But yeah, just to give you an idea, a few questions he actually asked me what this is actually about is for FSCAT, he was like asking me how long have you been domiciled in Sweden. For the VAT, he asked me to provide like maybe a contract with a client or a letter of intent, something similar. And that's basically to prove I pursue VAT related activities. And then also he'd asked me what my annual turnover will be and if I will invoice Swedish clients or only foreign clients. And then the question about being an employee. What would be my annual gross salary you plan to take out from my company? So, and that's where I am at the moment. I do not have Swedish clients yet, but my intention is to get Swedish clients, obviously one step after another. I feel everything is quite new to me. And to be honest, the reason why I also set up a company here is because I wanted to keep working for my UK employer. It's kind of a remote work and I wanted to legalize it, and the best idea was to really set up a company. But also in the future I would just like to be independent and have my own company and, you know, work with different companies, Swedish and foreign companies together. So that's my reason why I wanted to set up a business here in Sweden. But as you know, I'm also pregnant. So I will probably go into maternity leave in spring 2022. It will maybe delay a little bit getting new clients, but that's okay, that's life. At least I have set up my company and everything is legal. So I hope this video was a little useful for you. If you have any further questions, please let me down in the comment sections below. I hope I will be able to answer them. Again, it's not so much about how to do every step, but more like what is my experience and how long it took. And hopefully this gives you a little better idea. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and I hope I will see you in my next video. Until then, have a great day and stay safe. Hej då!